Some people think I'm an alien. Not true.
When are deliveries? Well, they're next year. So. So I do feel fairly confident that it will be next year. Yeah.
I mostly subscribe to scientific periodicals, like the daily news I find to be a lot of noise and just very negative. So I generally try to not read the daily news all that much. Because generally newspapers seem to be trying to answer the question, what is the worst thing that happened on Earth today? It's big, okay? There's a lot of people. Something terrible happened every single day, guaranteed. It was just a big plan. Also, something great happened, but they don't answer that question.
You could power the entire United States with about, let's say, 150 to 200 square kilometers of solar panels. The entire United States. Take a corner of Utah. Not much going on there. I've been there. There's not even radio stations, okay?
And you're not just recognizing that internally as a de facto position. You're saying to the world, here, have them, go for it.
Yeah.
Yes, which is a different thing. That's going one stage further.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's not just because you think we're never going to sue them. It's presumably because you think there is some business advantage to it.
No,
right?
I really don't.
No?
No. I mean, if there is, let me know what it is. I'm not sure. You know, I'm all ears. Maybe it will somehow turn out to be. In terms of sort of key influences, I certainly like Star Trek because that actually shows like more of a utopian future. Like it's not like things like aren't horrible in the future. Like it's like there's so many bloody post-apocalyptic futures. Like, okay, can we have one that's nice? Just a few. Our competitors, Boeing and Lockheed, receive a $1.2 billion subsidy per year. SpaceX, they mentioned, is getting
like 20 million or something.
Yeah, so like $15 million or something in the future from Texas for establishing a launch site on the south coast of Texas. So actually, SpaceX has received zero.
I think they were mostly focused on the Solar City and Tesla.
Yeah, they just threw SpaceX in there for good measure, just to be assholes, basically.
Technical.
And then Nevada gave us $1 billion or in tax credits or savings or something?
The whole tax credit thing drives me crazy.
Well, we're not going to turn it back.
Yeah, it sounds much better than it is. So actually, the first time I heard that the amount was 1.3 billion was at the press conference announcing the deal, and I was like, really? How did we get to 1.3? What we actually got was Nevada gave us some free land, but the state of Nevada has a lot of land, so this is not it's not in short supply.
Like the desert.
Yeah, there's a lot of land in Nevada, as I said. And then they also agreed to build a connecting highway on the southbound that connects to Carson City. But they were going to do that anyway, so I don't think that should be included in what they gave us.
To talk to you about how we actually get that image data and how we analyze them, we have our Senior Director of AI, Andrei Karpathy, who's going to explain all of that to you. Andrei has a PhD from Stanford University, where he studied computer science, focusing on vision recognition and deep learning.
Andrei, why don't you just do your own intro?
Exactly.
There's a lot of PhDs from Stanford. That's not important.
Yes.
Okay. We don't care.
Come on in.
Well, I think we'll probably have a mode that goes beyond Mad Max mode to LA traffic mode. Yeah. Well, Mad Max would have a hard time in LA traffic, I think. We're just being like more conservative right now, and then as we gain higher and higher confidence, we'll allow users to select a more aggressive mode. That'll be up to the user. But in the more aggressive modes, in trying to merge in traffic, there is a slight, no matter how many there's a slight chance of like a fender bender. Not a serious accident, but you basically will have a choice of, do you want to have a non-zero chance of a fender bender on freeway traffic, which is unfortunately the only way to navigate LA traffic. Yes. Really fundamental message that consumers should be taking today is that it's financially insane to buy anything other than a Tesla. It'll be like owning a horse in 3 years. I mean, fine if you want to own a horse, but you should go into it with that expectation. If you buy a car that does not have the hardware necessary for full self-driving, it is like buying a horse. And the only car that has the hardware necessary for full self-driving is a Tesla. Like, people should really think about their purchase. Any other vehicle. It's basically crazy to buy any other car than a Tesla.
And the reason for it is pretty straightforward. There's a huge amount of talent in the Seattle area, and like a lot of you guys seem to not want to move to LA.
The follow-up question would be, how can you manage so many things simultaneously? 3 companies.
Well, I don't recommend this. I really. It's not good for quality of life.
Go without asking about space. Only 4 entities have ever launched a space capsule into orbit successfully and brought it back: the United States, China, Russia, and Musk.
Well, we have a company, but yeah.
Well, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
SpaceX.
SpaceX.
Right. Robin from Supercluster. Have you flown the Dragon simulator in Hawthorne, and have you tried on the suit multiple times?
I've tried it on the helmet. And I've flown the docking simulator several times. You know,
I'll tell you, I am. I nailed it first time, and of course every time since.
But you had Bob and Doug's help.
I did.
I know.
I think it's good. Having played a lot of video games as a youth is probably helpful.
Talk about it, I think, at the Tesla shareholders meeting. Because I think there's a fair bit of confusion in the media, and I think, unfortunately, some things that were also said by Solar City that were not correct.
Oh.
Yeah.
You don't have any control over those guys?
Well, we had a conversation.
You guys have learned so much from the Fremont factory, and that really enabled like kind of a turbocharged build for Shanghai.
Yeah, I think the big difference is like we are way less dumb than we were.
What are some of the misconceptions that you would like to correct?
You know, most of this is just ended up being kind of water under the bridge that people didn't notice that much. Yeah, I mean, there's this sort of some stories in there where it sounds like I fired people all of a sudden and arbitrarily, which was not the case. You know, it just actually asked somebody who didn't know what was going on, and then that person was suddenly not there, and they didn't know why. But I definitely do not fire talented people, unless there's no option.
You know, there's been a lot of speculation as to what the D stands for. Yes, well, you'll notice my pants have Velcro seams.
Somewhat randomly, AAA of Southern California hugely increased Tesla insurance premiums. There is a simple solution: change your insurance provider.
Well, first of all, I mean, since I was a successful entrepreneur before SpaceX, I could have raised money. I could raise money for a bloody cheese factory if I wanted. They'd be like, okay, so I've never done a cheese factory before, but it knows how to build it. So.
It's really just what is the responsiveness of the organization to maximizing the happiness of the people, and so you want to have a competitive situation where it's truly competitive, where companies aren't gaming the system, and then where the rules are set correctly, and then you need to be on the alert for regulatory capture, where the referees are in fact captured by the players, which is and the players should not control the referees. Essentially, which can happen. The internet would fundamentally change humanity because it's like. Humanity would become more of a superorganism because the internet is like a nervous system. Now suddenly, any part of the human organisms anywhere would have access to all the information.
Amazing.
Instantly. So,
Neuralink.
Hey, well, can you imagine if you didn't have a nervous system, you wouldn't know what's going on. Your fingers wouldn't know what's going on. Or your toes wouldn't know what's going on. You'd have to do it by diffusion. And the way information used to work was really by diffusion. One human would have to call another human, or write them. Yes, like if it was a letter, you'd have to write a letter. You'd have to have that letter to another human. That would be carried through a bunch of things. Finally, another person would give it to you. Extremely slow diffusion. And if you wanted access to books, if you did not have a library, you don't have it. That's it. And the obvious thing to do is have a carbon tax. It's a no-brainer. 90+% of economists would say this, and I think of physicists, and it's just the market system works well if you've got the right price on things. It's very, very simple. And if you've got a price of zero, effectively, or very low, then it's, well, people will behave accordingly. So it's just, that's the thing that needs to get done. I think it will get done. And then if over time, as you raise the price on carbon, you can actually, I think, encourage sequestration technologies over time. And there'll be a lot of innovation in that regard. And that's the right way to do it. I think obvious to, not just to me, but to a lot of people, even go back 30 years or longer, that we must have a sustainable energy solution. In fact, it's tautological. If it's not sustainable, we must at some point find an alternative to it. And so even if there were no environmental impact to the sort of a fossil fuel economy, then we would run out of them, and then we'd have economic collapse, and civilization would fall apart. Yeah. So that was actually my initial motivation for electric vehicles. It's like, okay, we've got to have a solution that does not require mining hydrocarbons, that is sustainable in the long term. It was not actually initially from an environmental standpoint, because I did not realize the gravity of the environmental situation. You want to have like a good competitive forcing function, so that you have to make the product better, or you'll lose. Like if you don't make the product better and improve the product for the end consumer, then that company should have relatively less prosperity compared to a company that makes better products. Now the car industry, is actually pretty competitive, so that's good. But the good thing about a competitive industry is then if you make a product that's better, it's going to do better in the marketplace.